Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today card 4 in my Ink Road Stamps Heifer Please stamp set series featuring Lawn Fawn's Peekaboo pop-up interactive die. This one was super fun. So I'm sharing with you some coloring that I did with some Distress inks on Bristol Smooth cardstock, stamped the image with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, heat set with a fine clear embossing powder over the top to create those wells for that watercolored look. So many different ones. That rainbow one was supposed to look like a rainbow. She looked more like a rainbow stripe piece of gum. And just keeping this real, you're going to see what the desk actually looks like a little bit.
Hi, it's Jamie. You see this hot mess? Yes, this is what I work with. You want to know what you get to see? You get to see like this. This is like how much you actually ever get to see on camera. That's why I have stuff along the outside because I can only push it so far.
A cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. Mine's at a rave with a squirrel. I did leave this part in at 1.5 times normal speed. So it's fairly close to normal speed. It's not normal speed, but it's close. This one is a new interactive for me as well. So I'm still trying to remember valley, mountain, which, all of those things. I didn't measure this one per se, but I measured my horn to horn ratio, if that makes sense. So my widest part of the stamp to my other widest part of the stamp on its side, because I wanted it to make sure that it was going to be totally hidden beneath that pasture. And so I wanted a little bit of wiggle room. So I actually measured the image upright from the top to see how far up it could go and still be, visible, I guess. And it didn't matter to me if it was going to pop off the card, but I wanted to make sure that I had at least enough real estate behind that hill for it to sit. So I will go, for the most part through this. I took the middle, I think it was the longer L piece, because you have the one that's the straight one, or that just has the one fold, and then you have the one that has the littler two folds that are closer together. And so this one is got that little bit longer of a fold. I was hoping that it was going to be further down on my hidden piece, that you wouldn't, you get that longer extension because my image was bigger. At least that was my thought process. I don't know if that's proper thought process, but that's, I've only done this one. This is my second one with this one. I think I did one other that was before Lawn Fawn came up with this one, which was the all hand cut and measured folded thing. So I kind of have a little bit of a knowledge on how they work, but not so much with how Lawn Fawn's each lever on theirs work, but I'm getting there. I did do just straight glue to put all the things that were going to be permanent on my card right away. I have a love-hate relationship with double-sided adhesive, trust issues, like it not staying. And so I aim for that liquid glue. I like glitter art glue. Barely art glue is along the same lines. Dry time, both of those I think are fairly short. And so that's why I like to use those over some of the other ones on the market. And so I'm just adjusting it because it was hitting. It is a wide image. And so I knew that there was a possibility that it was going to hit that fold on the other side. And so I'm just adjusting for it to not hit that like it was. So I'm just going to go in and remove that removable adhesive and then add some liquid adhesive here to make sure that it's going to stay in place. And then try it out quick because it's not totally dry. I wanted to make sure that I was where I needed to be with it totally hidden before that glue completely set. So I could adjust it just, it was like I need to move this really fast sort of try it out thing. And so once I have this going I am happy with it, it is time to figure out the rest of the card. Because to this point, that's all I really had planned, because this is what I wanted to make work. And, the rest was just details. So I will let you watch me put the rest of it together. It's all fairly basic, stamping, die cutting type of stuff, and then decorating. I will say that making sure that one, I probably should have left the one cloud that was behind the other cloud out, because my horn did hit on it, but I just bent the horn up a little bit or curled my paper a teeny tiny bit, and it goes over it just fine now. Some farm life. Because we're dealing with the cow stamp and not my pasture, not my BS. Well, this one deals with that S aspect of farm wife stuff. So the guys are all in the field, and I've been holding down the fort as per, pushing feet ahead, making sure cows that are calving are not having issues. And so Tuesday night we had one that was calving. I had been watching it, and she hadn't been progressing. And she is a cow, so they're a little less spooked and they're a little tamer. And usually, if they need assistance, it's not quite as much as a heifer would need. And so I was like, all right. It was right before we started evening milking, and so I'm like, well, if we do it now, we can get it. If she doesn't have it in the next 20 minutes, we're going to have to stop milking, or we're going to have to stop the guys in the field to help, because there's no way I can do milking and pull a calf. And so my nieces had gotten there to help milk, and the oldest one's like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. It's not progressing. I don't want to have to call the guys. So let's see if you and I can get it. And she's looking at me like, okay. And so I was like, we're girls. We got this, Hoorah. Yeah. And so I instruct her what she needs to do, because there's stretching and stuff that needs to happen on the back end there. The head was too big to get through, and we needed to stretch and pull and unjar it from the pelvis of the cow. And so the cow was laying down, doing good, all those things. And so the first time I tug on it, these little calf legs are super slippery. And so I almost fell on my keister in a pile of poop. And she starts laughing. She's like, you almost landed in that pile. And I'm like, this is not funny, child. And she's like, oh, it would have been hilarious. Which she's probably right, but I was thankful I didn't land in the pile of poo, because not my pasture, not my... And so we do get the calf to, move. We're pulling and stretching, and we got it to come out. And we get all done, and the niece that we sent to get the ropes to help us with the pulling, because the calf legs are slippery and they're hard to grab onto, she finally comes back with the ropes. Well, you're done already. I'm like, well, yeah, it took you too long, and obviously we got it. And so the calf was alive. Everything was all good. We were just making sure mama was good, calf was good. And so we're walking out of the pen, and the niece that brought the ropes, I'm like, yeah, you missed me, almost falling in the pile of poo. And she's like, oh, that would have been funny to watch. And she looks at my foot. She goes, but your Croc didn't make it. I wear closed-toed Crocs in the barn. It's probably not the smartest thing to do, but it's what I do. And so I had a pile of poo on the whole side of my Croc, under my shoe, like under my sock. It was just bad. And I look at her and I said, well, the moral of the story is a pile of poo in your Croc is way better than a dead calf. And she just looks at me and shakes her head. And, I said, Crocs are washable. It's all good. And yeah, it's life, it's a pile of whatever. Wash it off and move on. And you can't dwell on it. So hopefully you can take some inspiration from that. pile of poo story. There is my finished card. I absolutely love how it turns out. That single flower and then the head popping up behind the pasture grass is awesome. Thank you for joining me. Keep getting inky. Over and out, Jamie.